Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a stack of sources that tell a truly fascinating ancient story.
Really fascinating.
It's a story about wealth, motivation, and, well, a pretty surprising spiritual transformation.
Profound, really.
We're exploring texts related to Dhammapada, verse 147, set way back in the time of the Buddha in Jetavana. And our deep dive today centers on a figure prominent in the sources, Anathapindika. He was hugely wealthy and a very devout supporter of the Buddha.
A major figure, yeah.
And his son, Kāla.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the sources introduce us to Kāla as the son of this incredibly faithful magnate, Anathapindika.
This man who was constantly supporting the Buddha and the community of monks, the Sangha.
But Kāla, the sources paint a picture of someone, well, utterly uninterested in anything spiritual.
That's right. What the sources really emphasize is Kāla's complete resistance. Like, he had zero desire to visit the Buddha.
Didn't even want to see him when the Buddha visited their home?
Nope. Listening to the Dharma. Not for him. Helping the Sangha. No interest whatsoever.
Wow.
Even when his father gave him direct advice, it didn't sway him. He was, fully disengaged from the spiritual life his father cherished so much.
It's such a stark contrast, isn't it? I mean, growing up right there in that environment.
And yet being completely untouched by it. Yeah.
So predictably, this becomes a point of, well, deep concern for Anathapindika.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture the sources present, Anāthapiṇḍika wasn't just worried about, a simple difference in lifestyle.
No, it was deeper.
He was genuinely concerned about his son's future destiny, specifically that Kāla's views, his actions, could lead to unhappy rebirths.
Like the lower realms or hells described in the text.
Exactly. The sources say he found the thought of his son going to such a place while he, stood by and did nothing, just unbearable.
And this concern leads Anathapindika to a rather pragmatic, maybe even unexpected realization. Something captured in the sources.
Yeah, this idea that there's basically no being in this world who isn't influenced by the giving of wealth.
It's a powerful statement about human motivation, right?
It really is. And what's fascinating here is how Anathapindika decides to, leverage this understanding.
Okay.
Seeing that the usual advice wasn't working, he chose to meet his son, where he was motivated by material stuff.
So he decided to try and use money to kind of break through.
Exactly, to open the door to maybe some spiritual engagement. It's a very deliberate strategy, really, based on a worldly truth.
So his plan kicks off with the first offer.
Yeah.
The father offers Kāla a sum of 100 kāpanas.
Right.
What was the condition? What did he have to do for the money?
According to the sources, the deal was pretty simple. Observe the Uposatha.
Which is a day of Buddhist observance.
Right. And go to the monastery to hear the Dharma. Just do that.
100 kāpanas. Were they worth much?
Oh, yeah. Kāpanas were a significant form of currency then, so this was a substantial payment, not pocket change.
And how does Kāla respond? Predictably.
Kāla agrees, yeah. But the sources are very, very clear about his motivation.
Only the money.
Only the money. He promised his father, apparently confirmed it 3 times, the texts say, and he did go to the monastery.
Okay, so he went.
But crucially, he had absolutely no real interest in listening to the Dharma. The texts basically say he just found a comfy spot, nodded off.
Slipped through it.
Pretty much. And went home early the very next morning. He fulfilled the letter of the agreement. He was physically present, but definitely not the spirit.
He definitely held up his end of the financial bargain, though. And he was ready to collect.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources describe the scene the next morning. His father had food prepared, but Kāla just refused to eat.
Yes. He was focused solely on the payment. He flat out declared he wouldn't eat anything until he got those 100 kāpanas.
Holding his father to the deal?
Completely.
Anathapindika, seeing his son's insistence. The sources say he couldn't bear it. He gave him the bag of money.
Yeah. And the detail the sources add here is quite telling, isn't it?
That he ate while holding the money bag.
Yes. Holding the money bag in his hand while he ate.
It's such a striking image. Really shows where his head was at.
Totally illustrates how singularly focused he was on that material reward. His attachment was, physically visible.
But Anathapindika doesn't give up. He's persistent.
Not at all. The next day, he sends Kāla back to the monastery.
With a new offer.
A new, significantly larger offer. 10 times the amount.
Wow, okay.
1,000 kāpanas this time.
And the condition? Was it more complex?
Actually, even simpler, it seems. Just stand in front of the Buddha and learn one single verse of the Dharma before coming back home.
Just one verse for 1,000 kahapans.
Anathapindika is really persistent, isn't he?
Yeah.
Trying a different angle. Maybe thinking, okay, minimal task, huge reward. Maybe that'll create an opening.
So Kāla goes back, stands before the Buddha. His plan: learn one verse, grab the cash, head home.
Right. Fully intending to just get it over with, but then something unexpected happens.
This is where the Buddha's skill comes in.
Exactly, according to the sources. The texts describe the Buddha subtly making it difficult for Kāla to actually grasp or, fixate on that single verse he wanted to learn.
How? Did he make it complicated?
It doesn't say he lectured him or anything. It seems more like through his presence, maybe the flow of his discourse, he just made that specific one-verse target kind of elusive, hard to pin down.
That's fascinating. So the Buddha doesn't force him, but skillfully encourages him to stay present, just by making the task harder than Kāla expected.
Right, and Kāla does stay. Not because he's suddenly devout, not yet anyway.
But because he's still trying to complete the task for the money.
Exactly. He thinks, okay, fine, I didn't get that one, I'll grasp the next verse. Still focused on the transaction.
But here's a key insight the sources reveal about this moment, right?
Yes. When someone listens with that thought, okay, I will learn this, even if the reason is, external, like getting paid.
Even if it's for money.
The sources say it's considered listening attentively. Respectfully, even. It shifts the mental posture from just passive hearing to active reception.
Okay. So the intention to learn, just that simple focus, regardless of the reason behind it, creates the right conditions in the mind.
Precisely.
Right.
And the sources explain that listening in this attentive way can actually open the path to spiritual states.
They specifically mentioned the path to stream entry.
Yes. So the Buddha continued this subtle action. And while Kāla was standing there listening with the thought of learning the next verse, just trying to fulfill the deal,
He actually got it.
he became established in the fruit of stream entry, Sotāpattiphala.
Wow. That is the absolute pivot point of the story.
Completely.
Motivated purely by money, Kāla engages in an action, prompted by the Buddha's subtle guidance, and it leads to the very first stage of irreversible progress on the path to liberation.
It's just a profound transformation happening right there, in that moment, from purely transactional engagement
to a fundamental shift in his whole spiritual trajectory. So the following day, things are clearly different. Kāla returns to the city, Savatthi.
But not alone this time. He's accompanying the Buddha and the community of monks.
And his father sees him. Anathapindika immediately notices the change. He thinks, today, my son's demeanor. It pleases me.
The inner shift was definitely showing on the outside.
And Kāla himself, now with this newfound spiritual understanding, he has a new thought.
A very different thought than the day before. He's thinking, oh man, I really hope my father doesn't give me that money right here in front of the Buddha.
He felt ashamed.
Yeah, shame about his previous purely monetary motivation. He wanted to hide it.
But the father, likely unaware of just how deep this internal change went.
Right, he probably just saw his son looking more settled or something.
He proceeds to fulfill his promise. After the meal service, right there in the Buddha's presence, he places the bag.
The 1,000 kapanas.
Right in front of his son.
And the sources describe Kāla's reaction, seeing the money offered, there, with his newfound sensitivity, his understanding. He felt that shame really keenly.
And he immediately declared,
Enough. Enough with the kahanas for me.
The very thing that had driven him just the day before.
Now held zero appeal. He refused it. Even when his father urged him, go on, take it. Nope.
He refused. The money had utterly lost its power over him.
His values had just fundamentally flipped, reoriented.
So Kāla's father, understandably surprised, but also, delighted.
Must have been quite a moment for him.
He pays his respects to the Buddha and comments on his son's changed behavior. He highlights the contrast, right? Yesterday, wouldn't eat without the money. Today, refusing it even when offered.
And the Buddha confirms it.
Yeah.
Yes, magnate, it is so. Just confirms the observation.
And then the Buddha makes this incredibly significant statement, according to the sources.
Right. This is where the Buddha really puts Kāla's attainment into perspective for everyone there.
What did he say?
He stated that for Kāla, today, right now, the fruit of stream entry was superior. Better than pretty much everything else imaginable.
Better than the fortune of a universal monarch.
Yes, or the fortunes of the heavenly realms, even the Brahma realms.
Which raises the question, obviously, why? Why make such a huge comparison? What does that even mean?
Exactly. So what are these things being compared to stream entry?
Let's break it down.
Okay, the sources are quite clear. Kingship over the earth, that refers to the ultimate power and wealth of a universal monarch, the highest possible earthly ruler you could be.
Got it. Peak worldly success.
Then, going to heaven, that refers to rebirth in any of the 26 types of heavenly realms described in the cosmology. States of immense pleasure, beauty, incredibly long life.
That's pretty good.
And sovereignty over all worlds. That means having dominion over all beings in all realms, human, heavenly, and various non-human realms too, like Nagas, Garudas, Petas.
Basically, ruler of everything.
Pretty much. These represent the absolute pinnacle of power, pleasure, and existence within the cycle of rebirth, short of actual liberation.
So vast, almost unimaginable levels of worldly and heavenly power and bliss. And the Buddha declares stream entry is superior to all of that. Why? What's the logic?
This is the critical insight the sources really emphasize. The reason stream entry Sotāpattiphala is considered ultimately superior is this. Even if you get to the absolute peak, universal monarch, highest heavens,
Even with all that.
you are still not free from the possibility of rebirth in states of intense suffering, like the hell realms.
So it's temporary.
Your time in those high states, however long, will eventually end, and you could fall right back down into the lower realms again. Worldly or heavenly power, no matter how great, offers no permanent security against suffering.
Ah, okay. That's the key difference.
Precisely. However, the sources state a stream enterer has the doors to the lower realms, hells, hungry ghost realm, animal realm closed.
Permanently.
Permanently closed, guaranteed. Guaranteed never to be reborn in those states of intense suffering again, even if they're considered like the weakest among noble beings on the path.
Even the first step.
They are absolutely guaranteed not to be reborn more than 7 more times, and only in the human or heavenly realms before they attain full enlightenment. They won't have an 8th existence in the cycle. They are on an irreversible path to liberation.
That is the fundamental difference. Temporary power versus guaranteed ultimate security from the worst suffering.
That's the value proposition the Buddha is highlighting.
The sources conclude this story by noting that, at the end of this whole discourse, seeing Kāla's transformation and hearing the Buddha's teaching.
Many other people present also attain the fruit of stream entry and other noble fruits.
So his story, starting from that purely financial incentive,
Became this powerful living demonstration for others of the potential for transformation and the true value of spiritual attainment compared to, anything else.
it really offers such a striking contrast, doesn't it? This young man, initially motivated purely by money,
Hooked by his father using that very motivation
leads through what seems like just a transaction.
to this profound spiritual shift.
He attains a state the Buddha declares is more valuable than any earthly kingdom, any heavenly reward, any universal dominion you could possibly imagine.
It's quite something.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? About the things we are motivated by, what we chase after. What do we truly value as security or happiness in our own lives? What are the kaha pans we're seeking? And maybe, what are we missing while we're chasing them?